Hi and welcome back. In this lesson, I'll cover the basics of plugins and show you how to install two of my favorites that I think will really enhance your site. First, what exactly is a plugin? Well, it's a lot like a phone app that gives your phone more functionality than what it came with when you first bought it. WordPress is like your phone's operating system, which comes with some apps, or in this case, features, built-in, and some that you'll need a third-party software to get. The version of WordPress without any additional plugins is called WordPress Core. WordPress Core is updated a few times a year, and each release comes with new features and enhancements. Like apps, plugins can be free, paid, or on a subscription model. Some plugins are created by plugin companies who create and maintain the software as their business, and other plugins are created by freelance developers just trying to share their code with others who might benefit from it. In any case, if you have something you need to do, chances are there's a plugin for it. To search the official WordPress plugin repository, click on Plugins and Add. But not all plugins are created equal, so here are a few tips when picking plugins. For a plugin to be featured on the plugin repository, they have to meet certain requirements, so already you can feel more confident about picking a plugin in there. What I look for when choosing a plugin are the stars, active installs, and how recently the plugin was updated, so I can tell if it's being actively maintained. Two of my recommended plugins for new WordPress sites are Jetpack and Yoast SEO. Both of these have free and paid versions, so I'll show you how to use the free ones and how to install them, and you can decide to upgrade later if you feel the need as your site grows. Let's start with Jetpack. All right, now under plugins, let's click on Add New and add the Jetpack plugin and the Yoast plugin. All right, now that we have these two plugins installed, you'll see them pop up in your plugins dashboard, and I'll go ahead and activate both of them. And now we have a Jetpack section and a Yoast SEO section in our dashboard. I want to draw your attention to the top here because you might be worried. I am making this demo in offline mode. So the website I'm building for this demo isn't currently available online. And so some of the Jetpack features are not going to work for me. One of those is site stats. Once my website is launched, site stats will show up on my dashboard, and it'll give me some insights into how many people are visiting my site and what pages they're visiting. I do recommend setting up Google Analytics for your website, as well as taking a quick look at your stats from your hosting dashboard. And between the three, you'll get a pretty good picture of the median traffic of your website. There are also some security features that will be available when the website is live. And I also want to point out that Jetpack has a paid version as well, and this is the free one. So there will be some options that you may see grayed out that are only available to paying Jetpack customers. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom here to modules because I want to activate some of these that will be added as features to my website. So one of them, Asset CDN. A CDN is a content delivery network, so it's a means to load your media even faster. I'm going to add carousel, contact form, copy post, custom CSS, custom post types, extra sidebar widgets, lazy images, sharing, embeds, sitemaps, tiled galleries, and widget availability. So I'm going to go ahead and activate those components. So there's a couple things you'll notice now that these are active. So if I go back to my settings here in Jetpack, there's a couple things that you can play around with once Jetpack is online and fully operational. One of them is sharing. So you can add sharing buttons to your website, and I recommend adding this if you are operating a blog on your portfolio. It can just help people to share and save your content. So I recommend adding this, and you can customize how it looks so it's a little bit more elegant, the official buttons, or my favorite, icon and text. Back to settings, you can also customize things like discussion. So you can allow people to follow your website with a subscribe button. And related posts shows other blog posts on your website at the bottom of a post page to keep readers engaged and clicking through your different blog posts. So let's go to one of our blog posts here because I also want to show you all the features that Jetpack has added to your block editor. So if you click on the plus button here, you'll see a whole lot more blocks that weren't there before. So all the green ones are Jetpack ones. So you've got things like Pinterest and Facebook and Maps and link to Google Calendar and even more if you go all the way to the bottom here. So business hours if you run a pop-up or a gallery, Calendly for people to book time with you, forms, contact info, all sorts of extra features that can really amplify your website. So I recommend playing around with these just like with the original features in the block editor. Another area where this adds features is in your widget. So if we click on widgets here, this takes me to the back end area of the widget. So you see the footer, this is what we had in our footer for our posts. And if we go to live preview, it takes us to the customizer where we can view the widgets there. So if I go to one of my blog posts, go here, then I'll be able to edit the footer widgets. And if I click on add widget, there's a whole lot more that Jetpack now offers. And they're quite similar to the block editor Jetpack features. So you'll see some overlap here, but there's some really fun features like Google Translate, which will add the option to translate a page on the front end, a Twitter timeline, upcoming events, and a couple of others as well. Something else that Jetpack adds is visibility controls on your widget. So this button is new. And what this allows you to do is to customize the footer widgets based on the type of post that's available here. So where that comes in handy is if you want to select a different set of widgets based on the category of the post or down to the exact post itself, you can use this setting here to control that. So you could say, show this if the category of the post is, and then you have your categories down here. And if you were to enable widgets on your homepage, you could also control the widgets that only appear on the homepage by saying show page is your homepage. So that way it would only show up on your homepage or some of your other content as well. All right, back to our settings in Jetpack. Now you're probably wondering, we have not even touched upon our portfolio items. And so this next section is all about that. So if we go to our settings and we go to writing, we need to enable these two elements here, portfolios and testimonials. And so I couldn't really create our portfolio items until I had Jetpack installed for this reason. And so now on the left, you'll see posts, media, pages, and these new sections, portfolio and testimonials. If we go to portfolio, we can add a brand new portfolio project. You'll notice that this does look quite similar to the posts or the pages editor. You have all the same blocks available here. And so you can build this content. So I'm going to add a project here, and you can get as granular as you need to for your particular portfolio. So a common structure might be, for this example, we have installations, illustrations, and photography, and you might just want to create one portfolio project per photography type. So you might organize all your portrait photography under one project and just put a gallery here. Let's say this was a couple different images, and you would add all of your photography here, and maybe you would add a little blurb underneath here with a description of your style, etc. So you might do something like this, and then maybe you would pull in your blog posts, latest posts, and you would only choose blog posts that were related to the photography category, if you had that category set up. So this is something I might recommend if you wanted to showcase all of your art, all of your blog posts related to photography. You could combine these two in one page. And so under here, you might select a project type and add photography. And then under tags, you might put portrait photography, and that would be one option. And we set maybe one featured image as this. So that would be one example. Now, if you wanted to get even more granular, what you could also do is not just have a style of photography as one project, but down to the specific project. Maybe that was one photography project that you worked on, and maybe you wanted to add one image at a time. So you could do something like this, and then have more photos here, and maybe a whole gallery as well, or perhaps a slideshow. We could also try one of these. So let's say these were all related to that project. Create a new gallery. You can add the caption to each of these. And then this could be a really nice slider as well. And you can make it automatic. You can make it fade. You can make it autoplay, add transition effect. And so because this is one specific photography project that falls under architecture photography, or maybe you want to just nest it under photography in general, you could add a category called architecture photography and add that. You can even nest projects under each other. So we could create another photography, add that project type, and then go in after and nest architecture photography under photography. And in tags, you can also do something like add the year. If you wanted to organize this later, you can also add a more specific date, and this might serve you in the future if you wanted to organize your content by date. So keep that in mind as you're creating your organization and structure. I do like to map these things out on paper first, so that might be something that's helpful in organizing the project tags, the project types, and the parent types. So now I'll go back to two of our projects here. And so under all projects, here's where you can put a little bit of order into your types. So I had architecture, photography, and photography. And I am actually going to nest one under the other. I'm going to call that photography and update. And I'll add a couple of more categories as well. So illustrations and installations. And here's an example of one of my structures. So this mimics the menu setup that I did have earlier. So you might be wondering, okay, how do I showcase these different project types on those pages? Now, shortcodes can feel a little bit complicated because it is technically code, but you'll see why I find them extremely powerful. So the shortcode for portfolio is this. I'm going to copy paste this because it is going to come in handy for us. Now, this takes us to a support document that is from WordPress.com because WordPress.com also uses shortcodes quite a bit. And the makers of WordPress.com are the same as the makers of Jetpack. So you'll see a little bit of overlap here. So we did make the portfolio custom post type available via the Jetpack plugin. So we know that this is the shortcode that we want to use to pull in our portfolio content. We also have attributes, so we can make this a little bit more granular in this way. And so the one that's going to be most relevant to me in this example is include type. So here's an example below. So if I go back to my website here, let's go to our photography page. So here I'm going to look for the shortcode block. So I'm going to copy the example that we saw in that support document. So portfolio display types, this means, are you going to show the different types of portfolio items that are on this site? Sure, let's see what that looks like. Am I going to show the tags? Sure, let's show that just so you can see an example. Include type, I'm going to show photography and architecture photography. And I'm going to showcase this in 2 columns and show a maximum of 10 posts and organize them by most recent. So let's see what this looks like. So with this shortcode, I've pulled in my portfolio items and it's showing me my waterfall house. It's showing me the type, which is architecture photography. It's showing the tags that I have on this and the excerpt as well. One of the other reasons why categories are really important is that you can link to the categories this way, and it will show you all of the projects that have this project type category. And when you click on it, it takes you to that specific page for that project. So let's build on that. So let's say this was one project under the category of portrait photography. I would add this, it would be under the photography project type. And so that would be my category. So here, if I wanted to showcase both of these projects under my page where I had my previous project displaying with my shortcode, I would add something like portrait photography. And now that I update it, now it would show both of these. So I want to give another quick example of ways to use categories and tags. Now, shortcodes, this can get a little complicated, so I do recommend bookmarking that support page that I showed you earlier so you can control more of these settings as you add more projects. You could stack multiple different shortcodes if you wanted to only show one type here and then add a little bit of text in between. You could insert a heading here and then you could move that in between so you could control some portfolio items showing up here and others showing up below. And something else you can do is just straight up add links to whatever page you want. So we could do a list, for example, and we could list some relevant projects here. So if we wanted to, we could really just link to this portfolio page. Or if you wanted to do it by tag, you could do by tag or category. You could click on this link and type in photography. And here you're given some options. So either you could link straight to this page, or you could link to the category, so the portfolio type, or to the tag itself. So if you wanted to just do the tag, you could link. And that way, this would link to all of the projects that have the tag photography. Hopefully I haven't confused you too much with the structure of portfolios. I do recommend sketching out a general information architecture before you start uploading your content. Once you do start building the different items, have fun with adding different block types. If you want to embed videos, if you want to add a slideshow like this, if you want to add a gallery or anything else that might help represent this project. So when we enabled Jetpack, we got portfolios, but we also got testimonials. And for testimonials, you can add the customer's name here, and you can add the testimonial itself. And then you can add an image as well. So I would recommend putting the person's face, but you might not have that. So let's just use this as an example. And you might put the excerpt as well. So if we publish this, on its own, this does not look that great. But where this gets interesting is that you can pull in this information on any of your pages using, once again, shortcodes. So if you wanted to add a testimonial related to this project, you could go in here, shortcode, and add testimonials, and this will pull in all of your testimonials. Or like we did with our portfolio, we can add using the attributes. And now all of a sudden I have a testimonial below. Clicking will take you to this page that you can edit, and you could even add something like a beautiful quote. You could also choose to add a star rating if they've given you a star rating, just to give it a little bit more of a fun review look. And you could also choose to remove the featured image altogether and just display it this way. What happens when you have a testimonial, when you start adding testimonials, these will all populate at your website URL /testimonials. So you can also send people there, and you can add that to your menu. In fact, if we go back to our menu settings in general, you'll see now that we have testimonials and projects enabled, these will appear as options of things you can add to your menu. So instead of having a page where you pull in content, you could just link to all projects and have them show up there. Now, one of the reasons why I chose instead to create separate pages for each of these categories is because it gives me more control over how to showcase content. However, if you're in a pinch or you don't really care, you can pull in all projects automatically and they will display as an archive page. And they'll just show in order like this, and you can click on each project and it takes you to that project itself. However, I think there's a little bit more beauty in showcasing them this way and having a little bit more control. If you wanted to bypass shortcodes altogether, you can absolutely do that. One final way that you could easily display your portfolio content is just by adding an image. It's just by adding an image or even a cover, adding some text like we did with the home page, and linking this to that project. And so you could create a page where you just had a bunch of these photos that linked out to each of your projects, rather than pulling in shortcodes that would pull multiple projects that share a same tag or a same category. I hope that showing you these options hasn't overwhelmed you, but rather given you some ideas and shown you just how flexible WordPress really is to control how you display your portfolio content. Even on our homepage, we can add testimonials, or we can do something like this and manually add a testimonial. So this is two ways to add social proof to your website. Although Jetpack does have some search engine optimization or SEO features, the gold standard for WordPress SEO plugins is Yoast. It has tools that allow you to prepare your website for search engines, to index and rank your content so people can find it. It also has great tools for individual posts and pages, so you're really optimizing each piece of content for search engines. If I could go back in time and give myself one piece of advice as a website owner, it would be to really put in the extra love and attention to each post and page to optimize it to the max for search engine visibility. So the first thing I will take a look at is Webmaster Tools verification. So if you run your business and you have a Google page or you have Google Analytics or Google Search Console set up, you can get a Google verification code, which basically tells Google that you are the owner of this website. I recommend setting this up. The other thing that you can do is customize how your website shows up in search engines, including the metadata and the image that shows up. You can control this across media types and across your website. In blog posts, now you have this section powered by Yoast SEO. And it gives you some tools and options to maximize the visibility of this page by using specific keywords and by optimizing the metadata that you have on this page. It will also give you recommendations for readability, so you can meet the standards that Google sets for good content on the web. In Lesson 7, I'll give you more examples of why this is important and how to achieve it. This is also available for your pages, and I do recommend starting with your homepage. You can control what shows up in search engine result pages and also follow best practices for search engine visibility, so that when people Google for a photographer or for whatever services you offer, or even just so that you show up when people Google your name, you can follow these instructions and these recommendations to maximize how visible your website is to people searching online. If you're curious about how to really optimize your site for search engines, you're in luck. That's what we'll talk about in the next video.